So your space matters. What you do with what you've been given matters. I mean, even the opening pages of the Bible start with Adam and Eve being given charge over space. And so sometimes our elements are the last thing we think about. And sometimes people criticize me of being too spatially aware. I'm aware of everything in my space, whether I go to a restaurant or a coffee shop. But think about how you respond to space, like to your environment. Like think about what it's like to walk into a cool space, a space that's dialed, a space that's like it's inspiring and it makes you feel different. And I think that's not by accident. I think it's by design. There's something about us that respond to order and the beauty of ordering things. It's a garden conversation. So when I became a pastor and a leader, one of the first things I began to do is think about my space. First, it was my office. Years ago, I had a friend of mine who was very successful in the engineering world, and he was a manager of a lot of different teams. And he encouraged me to think about what my space was like and what people felt when they came in. That was kind of like step one for me of what that was like, because it really wasn't about my office and it really wasn't about the space, but what would happen in that space. And so as a young pastor, what I did was I put a couch in my office, and I actually put my desk behind the couch. And that's kind of become a staple for me in my offices. But what it forced me to do as a young guy was I couldn't sit behind my desk and sit across from somebody and deem down information to them. I had to get out from behind my position of power. And think about that, even the essence of the gospel, giving up our seat, our authority. Instead of having the desk power play, I would have to move from behind the desk, and I would sit on a couch beside someone, or on the chair beside the couch, and I would sit with them, where the Bible says, "Come, let us reason together." And that was very important. And let me tell you, that was an important element to being a young pastor leading people who'd been married longer than I'd been alive. Rather than me saying, "Hey, let me tell you about this," or tell you about "Hey, let's talk about this, have a conversation." And that flowed out from my office. Why my office first? Well, that was the place that I had charge over. It was my space. And so here's what Jordan Peterson says in his 12 Rules for Life. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. So before you look at the world, think about what you've been given, and have you done a good job at keeping order of the things in your life? Because once I ordered that, well, then it inspired me in other areas. Now, I worked at a mega church, a couple mega churches, and sometimes this ethic in business and in the church world, and just really anywhere, this idea of excellence gets thrown around. But I think more so than excellence, like the best, the biggest, the most expensive, more than excellence, I think people respond to intention. When you're intentional in your space, it doesn't have to be excellent. That's why we respond to things that are crafty or scrap wood or handcrafted. We respond actually to the flaw. It doesn't have to be perfect. But what we respond to is not its excellence, but it's thought out intention, as if someone put that there for me. So the couch in our lobby is not about the couch in our lobby. It's about the people who will sit down on our couch. It's not about the coffee bar. It's about the people who will stand around and drink coffee together. It's not about my office. It's not about how it looks, but it is about how you feel. Because when people walk in, think about when someone just saves a seat for you, what it does to you when they say, "Hey, this spot is for you." See, I think fundamentally the idea of heaven on earth is when we make spaces and places for people. See, Jesus says this. He says, "I go away to prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may be also." So I think one of the fundamental ideas and why it really grips people is when we design space, when we think through space, whether it's our office, whether it's our house, whether it's your business, when you think, man, someone's going to sit there, I want to make sure that I've made a place for them. Man, that's a little piece of heaven on earth. And so when you think through that and you own it, instead of criticizing everybody else, what are you doing with your space? And this is what inspired us. This is actually where the hub came from. Maybe you've seen it. And I want to show you a little bit about the hub. Okay, so we are at the hub. It's hub night. And what's the hub? The hub is a space and a place. The hub is a spot for all these guys and gals. Check it out. What do you think about it? So, here's what we think about. We think about how can we take every inch of our property, every spot, and use it for the glory of God and the good of the valley. See what's up? You! Yeah, bro. So, when you do, creative things start happening. See, the hub came about with this idea that I was with this guy who started attending our church, and he was a professional skateboarder. And then I had another guy who was building houses out of storage containers. And everything just converged at one lunch where it was like the Lord just birthed this idea. Hey, what if we built this storage container and with a deck around it? And what if we put skate ramps all around it and we called it the hub? And it was a space and a place. And not 8 months later, we would launch the hub, and this idea would become a realization because we intentionally thought of our space. So we have this grand parking lot. That's how it started. And people would come in, and actually students would come skate. So we're trying to build this youth ministry. We're trying to build and bring kids in, and I'm chasing kids away. I live close to the church. I mean, I literally live on church grounds. And the parking lot's kind of my backyard. And I felt like the old man, like, hey, get off my lawn, or hey, you woodchuck, stop chucking that wood, Like I was the guy running these kids off. And it was like the Lord hit me. And he hit me with this line in Jordan Peterson's book. It's the 11th rule of 12 Rules for Life. It says, do not bother children while they're skateboarding. It was like I'm trying to get kids on my property while at the same time shooing kids off of my property. And so instead I started thinking intentionally, not just about what I wanted, what was this space made for, and how do I order what's already there? How do I take the chaos, like a Genesis, how do I take the chaos of just kids coming into the parking lot, skate, and how do I bring order to it? I mean, they're doing the exact same thing, but now I give it a space and a time and intention, and we took the things we already had and we did it. See, what if you, instead of trying to find a new idea for your business, for your life, what if you just started thinking about how can I reorder what's right in front of me? How do I rearrange? I mean, I think Mark Driscoll coined the phrase with marriage, new marriage, same spouse. I mean, you don't need a new marriage. You need to reorder how your marriage functions. You don't need a new family. You need to maybe reorder with intention and begin to design the life that God has for you. Spaces and places are heaven on earth. Thanks for joining me.